Welcome to the USA, where everyone needs a gimmick. A young Polynesian chieftress who dreams of adventure beyond her tribe's borders is chosen to travel the sea to break the curse on the world. The good. No romance subplot. Right off the bat, we have somewhat of an abnormality in any movie, or especially a Disney movie. Going in, I was wondering about this one, because Maui is a demigod, and I thought they were going to pull some Hercules shtick here, but it isn't like that at all. They don't force a romance subplot like most movies just to have a romance. They finally see that you can have a story without that weighing the movie down. They treat the characters as individuals rather than a couple, therefore taking away from each other as actual people, but not here. I love that so much. Visuals. I go on about this in my favorite films a lot, but the look of this movie is so unique to the story. The animators really just looked at each other and said, what's the hardest thing to animate? Let's do that. Sand, skin pigmentation, water, body hair. Oh, it looks good. I won't spoil it, but there was a part that I cried. I'm not ashamed, but without this certain visual, I don't think I would have had the same feeling without that actual visual. I just remember seeing this miracle, and it was grand. It looks so touchable. I feel like I could reach out and touch it, and that is what every animator aspires to do. Fun and happy. How do I bring this part up? Every Disney movie is fun and happy at some point, or every point. And what's not to like about that? Some people think that's a bad thing, which I can understand how they feel without diversity in stories from the same company. But what I can't understand is generalizing a set of movies just because they come from the same company. Or the fact that people say that if it's a kids' movie that it can't convey the same thoughts and emotions as any movie made for adults. That gets my blood boiling. But Moana seems different from the normal fun and happy movies in the Disney vault. Of course it's fun, of course it's happy, but it's fun and happy for different reasons. Frozen is fun and happy because of the songs and the characters learning about themselves, but Moana is inspiring. Every Disney movie has a moral or meaning or, hell, a sales pitch on humanity. Moana is inspiring in the fact that the music, animation, and characters wrap up perfectly to explain to everyone that you can't stay in your comfort zone if you want to change the world. You have to put people in front of your own doubts or feelings, believe in yourself, and go for what you care about. I'm an optimist. I get chills thinking about it. Music. What's a Disney movie without their songs? And Moana is no different. I think this might be my favorite part of the film, or maybe I'm just saying that about everything in this film. Let me compare and contrast Frozen again. Frozen's most memorable song, Let It Go, was of course memorable. It's a great song. I'm not disputing that. I saw Frozen in theaters, I loved it, and I still do. But that doesn't change the fact that Let It Go was made to be the song. In Moana, the songs can be memorable, but they all serve a purpose. Both Elsa and Moana have their own songs. Elsa's song, showing the pressure finally being taken off of her after everyone learns her secret, while Moana shows her struggle between her tribe and her curiosity of the sea. Do you see which song moves the plot forward more? Elsa's song is a character-building song, which is understandable, but it was made to be catchy and to be played over and over again. Moana builds up her character, the world, and the plot. It can be catchy because of the feeling it gives the audience while listening to it, but it's not a song made to drive parents crazy after the third or fourth song later. And that's what most of the music in Moana does. It builds worlds, characters, and moves the plot forward. Also, I'd like to add that even though it wasn't technically the villain, I still love the villain song in the movie. It was my favorite, and it also wasn't just there to be there. It brought up important plot points and built the story. Like in Princess and the Frog, the music is made to fit the style and design of the world, which in this case is tribal and tropical sound, and it works so well. Tribe history. Motunui, or world building. Another thing Moana does right is how it builds the world and the originality of said world. The Motunui are a prime example, giving them a distinguished style and making their way of life so unique. Each chief putting a rock on top of the island to raise the island was one of my favorite aspects of the world. Not only that, but the songs as I've mentioned help build the world as well through the use of the lyrics. You're Welcome tells of Maui literally building the world. Where You Are shows us the tribe's way of life and the rules of the island. Shiny shows us that Maui isn't the greatest thing in the world, and he too has flaws and a sad past. Not only that, but that same song shows us the type of creatures that live in the world, and that's only to name a few. Point is, this is a rich world Disney has made for us. The bad. Modern references. Okay, now I know Disney does this all the time. Aladdin, Hercules, Tarzan, and more. But in Moana, they put in a bit of Easter eggs to non-Disney things, like Maui grabbed a chicken and said, if you write with a bird, it's called tweeting. I hate it. I hated that so much, but not as much as I hate tongue-in-cheek or on the nose. Not throughout, but here and there they had some dialogue that was obviously towards Disney themselves or the audience. They argued about Moana being a princess, which she argued against, and Maui said, if you have a dress and an animal sidekick, you're a princess. And later he says, if you start singing, I'm gonna throw up. After he just sang his own song. Maui even looked right down the barrel of the camera and talked to the audience. References like that just take me out of the movie. Maui. Okay, so I just couldn't stand looking at Maui. He looks so freaking ugly. That's it. You know what? One more thing. Okay, spoiler. Seriously, don't spoil this at all, no matter how minor it is, okay? I'm gonna put a time code right here and leave right now. Maui leaves Moana assuming that he's not going to come back, which you know he's coming back. But when he does come back, it's not explained why. He just fist bumps his tattoo and we're supposed to think that his tattoo convinced him. I mean, sure, but we didn't see the struggle with Maui finally realizing he was wrong. And that's when we're actually interested in seeing it. What convinced him to risk his life and help Moana? I beat my brain wondering why they left out a scene that would have such an impact on the character, movie, and the audience. It was probably to show that it was about Moana, not Maui, which I can understand, but still, that would have been a great moment. Hey hey. Screw hey hey. Like, honestly, he was annoying. Completely annoying. I agree with John Lasseter. He should have been taken out of the movie. He was annoying as all hell and was honestly just the comic relief, which I can relate to. But there's instances just where it's too much. He caused more problems than he was worth. And the thing about it was that he was a bait and switch. You know that pig in the commercials? Yeah. He should have been the animal sidekick, which I thought they were going to do that. There's no reason why not. I would have had that pig than the chicken. Ah! Disney cliches. And probably the biggest offender to the movie was all the Disney-specific cliches. Full of himself male character, animal sidekick, and a cliche I would say, but then it would be a spoiler. It was just regular Disney shit I didn't want to see again, but in the end, it didn't necessarily matter. Best character. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Tamatoa. A giant crab was my favorite character of the movie. He was definitely cocky and a happy guy when he had the upper hand. He had the 2010s dialogue that we're used to, which I wouldn't say was his best feature. But Tamatoa had the villain song, which was my favorite song of the movie. It gave his backstory while revealing Maui's as well. He wasn't exactly clever, but he was full of himself and had a relatively simple villain song than, say, Unfortunate Souls or Frollo's song. But it still conveyed how he saw himself and why he wanted to be that way. It did something different with the villain song. Not for the main villain, but a villain song nonetheless. The address. Moana was a breath of fresh air for me. No, I wasn't plagued by commercial after commercials, so I did walk in not knowing much for what it had in store for me, which possibly lowered my expectations, but when I did watch it, I loved it so much. So full of heart and inspirations. I cried a bit in this movie. I've mentioned it earlier why I did. I'm not going to say exactly because I want you to feel it too. But even now, just thinking about it, I get choked up a bit, and I feel like I am going to start tearing up. And especially when I listen to the soundtrack. It wasn't that emotional, I will be the first one to say that, but I think this was one of the first movies that actually made me feel this way. It probably won't make you feel that way, but it sure made me feel that way. And especially when I listen to the soundtrack. Despite some of its obvious women empowerment messages, it didn't come off to me so strong like Frozen did, mostly because Frozen was advertised like this. Who will she pick? The nice guy, the ice guy, or no guy? But Moana felt like a genuine story of a girl overcoming her world, and it helped that there wasn't a forced romance. I can tell still that Disney is trying to slowly make their princess characters more tough, and I'm waiting for the day that they just pull the trigger and make a built warrior princess, like Wonder Woman. But I think they're going for subtle women empowerment messages here. Moana's arms are huge. Just gonna say that, and I think that's great. The world is amazing to live in. The animation and music together makes moments that will leave you speechless and with chills. I want to say in this review that it was all original, but after thinking about it, I found that Disney stole the premise from Disney. Even the most recent Disney movies, Tangled and Frozen, also have the protagonist who is forced to stay in one place for their entire life. They both want to escape to an extent. But even those movies stole the premise from the Little Mermaid sequel or the Jungle Book sequel. Disney do something different with what you got. But overall, I loved this movie. And it's made it to one of my favorite Disney movies. After the good, the bad, and the address, Moana gets 2 stripes. Clear your schedules, gentlemen.
One day I'll know how far I'll go.